Call the meeting to order. For those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and a pledge to the flag. If you would bow your heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for the time we get to spend together. Thank you for blessing the city republic. Thank you for allowing these officials to make the decisions that you want them to make and guide, lead, and direct this city in the future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So they do.
Just a couple of announcements tonight. We have a birthday among us. Did you sign your card this year?
I didn't get a chance.
Thank goodness. It's Gary Wilson's birthday. Last year, we sent cards around to the council members. He signed his own card last year and said, "Happy birthday to me." So we got it past him this time. One of our longest standing members of City Council, Mr. Wilson. Happy birthday, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And next item on Mayor's announcements. Oh, Mr. Wilson's birthday is July 3rd.
Yep.
Okay, just you can celebrate your birthday and then Independence Day. Is that the way it was designed? All right. Last announcement that I have. Republic Town Hall meeting has been set for the trash issue. That is July 12th at the Republic Community Center. That is 711 East Miller Road. That is 7 p.m. And proposals from the solicited from all area refuse businesses and results will be presented at that time. At this particular time, I would like to mention the results are back. You can look at the numbers. However, I want to make sure everybody understands that before those numbers are going to be presented at the town hall meeting, staff is going to go through, as we do with all RFPs, and ensure that we're talking apples to apples. There may have been some confusion on some haulers' parts about exactly what one item meant or another item, and then when you try to combine those two. So you have just basic numbers. However, staff is going to go through there again and make sure that we're comparing the same items to the same items. So just want to let everybody know. So please take those into consideration as you look at the numbers. I don't think it may change based on how we dig into that and make sure that we're comparing everything the same. So anyway, that's July 12th, 7 p.m., and that will be our town hall meeting. I'd like to open it up now to a public hearing concerning an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 0.5 acres owned by Mark Craighead and located at 224 and 226 North Main Street from local commercial C1 to general commercial C3. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. This rezone will rezone approximately a half an acre that is located at 224 and 226 North Main Street, which is just across the street here. The rezone will be from the local commercial C1 to the general commercial C3 zoning district, which is a zoning district of incremental increase in intensity from the C2 district that you are probably all more familiar with. I have distributed a list of the permitted uses in the C3 zoning district to each of you for your reference. Both of these properties are owned by Mark Craighead, who also owns Crossbreed Holsters, which is the current use of the property located at 224 North Main. The 226 North Main property is currently an abandoned service station.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Anyone wishing to speak against this particular public hearing, please step forward. State your name, sign in, and give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak for this particular public hearing, please step forward, state your name, sign in, and give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, public hearing closed. I'm almost moving on there. Now, I'd like to open up to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation closed. Need a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the financial report, Laura Guy Rice is here.
I am.
Please give us an overview, ma'am.
Yes, I will. What you have in front of you is 1 cent general sales tax to date, the collection, and we are right on budget for that. So if the remainder of the year continues, we were kind of concerned when we had the March distribution where it looked like it was going to be low. That must have been a timing difference because we came out of it with what we received from the April sales. So to date, we are 6.1% higher than we were in the prior year. Motor fuel tax, also good news. We're still running on track. We have met 60% of what was budgeted, and we are not quite through with 1/2 of the year in our collections. So it is still remaining positive, and to date, about 57% higher than in the prior year.
Questions, comments, discussion for Laura? Anything at all? Seeing none, need a motion to approve the financial report?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Reports from staff. Mr. Krischke, do you have anything, sir?
Nothing.
Mr. Dickerson?
No, sir.
All right, fantastic. Welcome, Mr. Keeling. Your 6 items, I think, are still on here.
Thank you.
Are you gonna get that whittled down anytime soon?
6 is probably a low point. We'll stick with 6 for a while.
All right.
We are currently taking registration for Cheer Republic. The deadline for session 1 is July the 20th. The deadline for session 2 is November the 16th. June 26th, Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program at the Community Center. It's at 1:30 p.m. As always, that is a free event and no registration is required. June the 27th, Toddler Music and Art, 10 a.m. The cost is $18 for 6 classes, and pre-registration is required. June the 29th, Toddler Story Times on a Friday, 10:30 a.m., and it's always a free event. June 29th, this Friday, have a blast. Excited about that. Hope everyone comes out. It is going to be hot, but it'll still be a great event. Starts at 6 p.m., fireworks at 9:40 p.m. Encourage everyone to attend. And next Wednesday, July 4th, the city offices will be closed in observance for the holiday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
Many of you don't know, Jared used to have us read those, and the list was 25 to 30 long, and now he's whittled it down to 6 since he had to read it. On to old business, Board Commission and Committee reports, Board of Adjustments July 5th, Capital Improvements July 18th, City Council July 9th and July 23rd, Planning and Zoning July 16th. Now on to old business and table items. We have bill number 12-43 that has been tabled. Need a motion to remove the item from the table.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to remove item from the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0-1. Need a motion to have the first reading of bill number 12-43.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain again.
Motion carries 6-0-1.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute a sales agreement with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission to convey a portion of excess right-of-way of Route 60.
Thank you, Brenda. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
This ordinance authorizes execution of a sales agreement to purchase, approximately 3,500 square feet of, state highway right-of-way. This is located at the northeast corner, intersection of Main Street and Highway 60. The subject matter is coupled with the following agenda item. This is strictly a conveyance of the property, mentioned for approximately 3,500 square feet, and the negotiated sales price with MoDOT is $1,200. We want to point out some restrictions that MoDOT would pass along with that, would be included in the deed. They may reclaim the property at any time to use again for highway purposes for the sales price, $1,200. All the known or unknown existing utilities retain the right to use the space that they are in. Don't necessarily have the right to expand or locate new facilities, but to remain in place. The state won't warrant a clear title, however. We researched the background of this. This is cleanly condemned, as clean as condemnation can be. We're not too concerned about the title to this. And then again, no new driveway access can be constructed on this parcel. It is a two-step process. If the council were to authorize executing the sales agreement, we send a 10% down, and executed agreement goes through the Highway Commission. Once they approve it, they will provide a quick claim, and the city pays the balance of that $1,200.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
You said MoDOT acquired this through condemnation?
Yes.
Wasn't that a little burr?
Mr. Harder, please.
See us needing to have driveway access at all, and that's not an issue. What we're trying to do.
You can access, vehicles can access, come and go, but we cannot establish a permanent driveway as you might envision one for a house or business.
Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Very well, that is a first read. The second read will be on the next agenda, barring unforeseen circumstances. On to the next item under old business. This is also was tabled, 6/11 meeting. I need a motion to remove from the table.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to remove from the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
And abstain.
Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention. Resolution number 12-R-26, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, to enter in a joint project with the Republic Historical Society to renovate, install, and maintain the Republic Arrow sign. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And Mr. Krischke is going to give us an overview on that.
In the packet, the very last page in there is itemized detail of what the expenses the city would incur if the sign were installed. Once again, the Republic Historical Society is undertaking the job and the cost to restore the actual sign and to install it on that site that David just went through at Route 60 and Main Street. That's one of the original locations. There were two of these signs actually in existence at one point. The other one is missing in action. I don't know where that one may be, but this is the one that is remaining. The Historical Society has it. They've gotten estimates on the repair to put it back into its original condition. They are, again, gone through the fundraising process. I believe either they have all of the money already together to get that work done, or they're very, very close, and now it's at the point where they are asking for the city to step up and assist with a number of things. The first thing would be split the cost of the property at Route 60 and Main Street. That's a $1,200 expense, split equally, so the city would be responsible for $600 of that cost. The decorative base, which, we provided it's not attached here, and I apologize, but it was in the last packet. There was a decorative base that we did get an estimate on. I did show in this outline that we have two different options. One, if we contract out to get that decorative base installed, it would be approximately $7,000 for that to be done. If we do that work in-house, we do have an in-house mason that would be able to get that work done. We would have to be responsible to buy all the materials and brick and that sort of thing. We're estimating that expense to be $2,000. That, again, is optional. There's no requirement on the city's part to put the decorative base in. That was just an effort to maybe spruce it up and make it look a little bit nicer and better on the corner. But again, that's optional whether or not the city would want to do that. Annual expenses, the electricity for this, assuming that this would be on 4 hours per day, there would be a timer installed, so that it wouldn't be running, all evening or even 24 hours. Depending on how they rebuild the electrical portion of the sign, if they go with some of the old original technologies, it would be more costly to provide electric to that. That would be about $50 per month or $600 per year. If the Historical Society were to go with a newer technology and different types of wiring, and don't ask me what the difference between the two are, because I couldn't be able to tell you, but I do know that the difference would amount to about half in terms of an electric bill, or about $25 a month or $300 per year. Annual sign maintenance, the company that is restoring the sign, Pinnacle Sign, they have a couple of different programs. If we want just a basic once a year, they would come out, look at the sign, clean it, make any minor adjustments or repairs. That would be $100. They suggest that these signs should be maintained on a quarterly basis, so a quarterly maintenance agreement for the sign would be $600 per year. In that agreement, they take a picture, they document everything that they've done, they document the condition, and then they give that back to the city so that they can keep track and have a record of the work that would be done. Property and liability insurance, there would be no appreciable difference in that to talk about. And then on the bottom, you'll see what the Historical Society is incurring their expense-wise, close to $8,000 for the estimated cost to repair. The electric to the sign would be courtesy of Empire Electric. They've agreed to waive the expense to bring the electric from the pole to the sign. And then, of course, with the renovation of the sign, it would also include the installation as is on the two poles, as the one picture had shown. The one item that is in the agreement that was drafted for the Historical Society and the city would be a $250 contribution by the Historical Society, matched by the city, to cover any of the annual expenses that we would incur. That could be electrical, that could be any sort of repairs that may happen. I did also talk, another question that come up, about the actual maintenance of the sign itself. I did talk to the sign company. They are not overly concerned with the neon tubing. They cited Andy's, Steak and Shake, and a few other businesses that have that type of tubing. They don't feel that it's vulnerable, of course, but they didn't feel like it was something to really be overly concerned with. If it did sustain some damage, it wouldn't be very expensive to repair. The porcelain, though, that the sign would be made of instead of metal, that is a little more delicate than the metal would be, and would be more subject to damage, although they felt that it would stand up fairly well as well. So that's pretty much the information I have. Now it's up to council.
All right. Council, questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Krischke?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Krischke, the cost of the electric for one wiring versus the other, is there any way to nail that down and go ahead and specify we want the higher grade from the beginning so it costs less per year?
Yeah, and we've had some conversations, and the Historical Society is here, and they might be better, since they're undertaking the restoration of the sign, they're the ones that are making the decisions on the porcelain versus the metal and what type of wiring to do. I believe their intent is to restore it to its original condition. I don't believe the electrical part of it is really going to make a difference because that's not seen. But I'm assuming, you know, you can make that part of a motion if that's what you would want to, is to include that, or just ask them on what they feel, I suppose.
Coupled with that, I guess, the $100 a year for upkeep versus $600, that's significantly different. Don't guess the city want to be saddled in perpetuity to $600 a year for upkeeping the sign on a quarterly basis.
And that's a one-year agreement, so each year it would be renewed, so we could, I suppose, bounce back and forth between, and they have a semi-annual as well. I just showed the range, the semi-annual, you know, would obviously be in between the two, but I asked for what they recommended, which was 4 times per year, and I said, what is the minimum we could have as an expense, and then that's where they came back with $100. But I'm sure there are other options through the sign company.
Mr. Grooms?
I just want to clarify one thing. By moving to the newer technologies, that would only reduce the electrical usage portion of the bill, so that would drop it to 35 instead of 25, roughly. Because there's a $20 minimum that would be unaffected. So, just a clarification for everybody.
So negligible.
$10 a month difference between the old and new technology,
Okay.
roughly.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Wilson?
Okay, in the whereases, it says the cost of the sign for restoration is approximately $10,000. But over here it says $7,000, which actually is it?
I see what
Right
you're
here
saying.
it says $10,000. Over here it says $7,000.
I think the 10,000 came originally from the 8,000 for the renovation and installation, 600 for the purchase of the property, and then if Empire hadn't donated it, the electrical service, that would have been another 600. It was 92, and I'm assuming we probably just rounded upwards to
So
cover it.
in other words, they're putting in everything that it would cost on the restoration.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Poole, go ahead.
How does the Historical Society feel about the decorative part of this? Do they want it that way? Or are we talking restoring it with the decorative? Or are we talking about restoring it like we show it in the picture, like it used to be out on the highway? I haven't heard them say anything about it, so. If we're restoring it to its original look, we wouldn't need to have a decorative plan. I think it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I think that would be nice, but I just wondered what their input is.
Our interest is to get the sign up. If we have to backtrack a little bit, so we were under the impression that we would refurbish it, put it up without any expense being to the city other than the utility part of it. So we didn't anticipate anything else being added to the sign.
Go ahead, Ms. Poole, you're still on the floor.
If you install the sign on the poles, or if you install it with a decorative like is drawn up, which way do you people want it?
Like I said, it really doesn't, we wanted it the way it originally was.
Well, that was
But
with
if we
2
could
poles.
get the sign up with a few things added to it, we're not gonna question that fact.
Well,
We would like to see it like it was originally.
I'm thinking of $2,000 where compared to what 2 poles would be. And you can always put some shrubs and something around the pole to make it look very nice. Look at our little pocket park. I think it's beautiful. And there's things that you can do to make something look attractive and not spend $2,000 to put some bricks or rocks or that. And I'm not opposed to doing that if that's what you want to do.
Well, I wanna do what the council wants to do. We want
You're not helping me a
I told you all we want to sign up back in the original one, okay?
Okay.
But if we have to jump through some hoops to get it up,
If you have to put a brick around it, it's okay. Is that what you're telling
we'll
me?
accept that.
Okay.
We'll accept that. We don't like that, but we'll accept it.
You okay with that?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson, go ahead.
Well, it's my understanding that they're doing the sign, and if there's decorative rock or whatever put up, was the city's deal on that.
That's correct.
I realize that, Gary. I know that that's in the plan, but I was thinking of $2,000
Originality.
opposed to a nice pole and some shrubs.
What you're asking is the aesthetic value worth $2,000.
That's right.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Nothing says we have to do the aesthetic value of it, we just do the pole.
Well, if we look up and down Highway 60, most everything is on poles. Some of them are decoratives around it, most of them. I went up the highway and counted them all, and there's 5 that have brick around them, and there's 75 that just have poles. There's about 5 that have shrubs. So, I just was curious how we could save some money that way.
You didn't walk that, did you, Ms. Poole? I hate to see you walking
No.
up and down 60 again.
I didn't walk it, but I did drive it.
Okay, I'm glad you drove it. Well, your point's well taken. The idea was to incorporate some of the aesthetic value that you had proposed and from your commission to have some welcome signs and try to incorporate some of the aesthetic value that you had presented there with this particular sign, because this is moving forward much faster than the welcome signs
Yes.
will have ever moved. But at the same time, this is a lot less expensive for a nice historical piece to be incorporated with an aesthetic
Don't have a
value
problem
of the
with
welcome
it.
sign. I'm just letting you know kind of why that was incorporated and why it was put on there, so just to let you know.
But
I understand what you're
to
saying.
avoid it moving forward, I would go with the pole rather than worrying about $2,000 for the
I understand.
rock. But I think the rock would be beautiful. I have no qualms about that at all.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Harder? Oh, you had your finger up, I'm just listening. Mr. Crooms?
As a counterpoint, this council, roughly 4 years ago, passed an ordinance requiring all new construction along the Highway 60 corridor to be composed of certain building materials,
You're right.
stone,
I was
you know,
on that
some
committee.
facades and things like that. I opposed that then, but since we implemented it, I feel that if we're going to put something up in that same corridor, we should follow the same ordinance that we require everyone else to do.
Then why do we have buildings that we allow to do it without doing what they
What
said?
buildings have gone up on Highway 60 that have not, since that time, that have not, been subject to that ordinance?
We'll discuss it later.
One of you is gonna be chasing a rabbit here in a minute, I'll have to bring you back, so, back to signage. Mr. Harder?
Well, to your point though, that was a building, for buildings,
It was.
not
For
signs.
buildings, it wasn't for signs.
And I don't know, that was actually my follow-up question was, have any signs gone up in that corridor since then, and have they been subjected to that particular ordinance in any way? No to the first or the second,
They wouldn't be subject to the overlay.
but have any gone up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Ms. sign ordinance is different than a building ordinance, is that what you're saying, Mr. Tyson? Okay, there's your, there's part of the answer.
Working on that.
Mr. Casgrain?
I just have a thought more than a question. You know, I didn't grow up here. My wife who did told me, I don't see it with the sign. I'm sorry, I don't see it. But I told my wife that, and she was horror-stricken that I shouldn't even say such words. So I'm...
It's on TV now, so you're not...
That's an apology.
It's gonna be on TV now.
Sorry, I'm not until Wednesday.
What I would like to do is make sure, what I'm most concerned about is that we don't have cost creep, so that, hence my two earlier questions. So I would like to make a motion that we lock down a certain amount, lock it down to the 100-year, once-a-year maintenance for the sign, so that we're not having these folks come out all the time. So the council might not remember this a year from now, so I'd like to lock it down to the once-a-year maintenance. I'd like to make that motion.
You made a motion to lock it down to $100 a year maintenance, is that correct?
One time a year maintenance, whatever that costs.
One time a year is that's a yearly contract, right?
I'll second that motion.
Hold on.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
If you lock it down to a dollar amount, you're not taking into account the possible inflation, the cost going up. So I hate to see a dollar amount go in there. Maybe it would be better to have that motion be for a once-a-year maintenance.
I think that's
as opposed to a dollar.
I'll move that we have once-a-year maintenance on the sign.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second for once-a-year maintenance. On that particular motion, any other discussion?
Is that whether it's necessary or not?
Excuse me?
Would that be whether it's needed or not?
What?
Once a year maintenance?
That would go
And
into part of the agreement.
Actually, it will probably be brought back to you each year. So to lock it into,
So basically, it's a one-year renewable contract.
That is correct.
Okay.
it'll be brought back to council each year,
Again.
probably with a price.
It's not
so
a,
that you can
it's
decide
June 25th,
annually.
come out and fix the sign.
You are
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of motion for 1 year contract maintenance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries on that particular piece. The amended portion carries. Okay, additional comments, questions, and discussion. Ms. Harrelson, go ahead.
Just to clarify, the annual maintenance contribution that was optional, and it's in here is optional language, has that been discussed, nailed down, whether or not that's going to happen?
It says optional. For
Well,
you
I
guys
know.
to discuss.
But I wanna make sure that, you know, they're on board with that.
Excuse me?
I wanna make sure the Historical Society is on board with
Oh, I
that.
don't think they are, but
Okay.
we need to ask them for sure.
There's a letter in our
Yes,
package,
there's a question,
basically.
the optional maintenance,
For somebody with a tax base, I'd say, yeah, we agree with it wholeheartedly. But we depend on fundraisers and donations. So sometimes if you commit to the certain figure, it might be hard to raise that figure at the end of the year. So for us to commit to something, it will be a hardship to us. To get the sign up, we can do it. But, it will be a hardship for the society. And then if we had a tax base, there wouldn't be a problem. The way we're funded, you know, down through the years, we've got the money now, but through the years, might not be able to meet that commitment of $250 a year. But you do have a clause there that reaches $5,000 by setting caps, and we don't put any more money in it, so I understand that. It would be a hardship on the society to commit to specific.
Answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Additional comments, questions, or discussion? Mr. Wilson, then Mr. Hart.
Personally, I would prefer that we stopped at item number 7 and left the additional optional language off.
I think that optional language is only for number 7.
No. It's
You're-
below it.
You
8, 9,
have
and 10 or
8, 9, and 10 on the other page that are
Right.
a little different. So you're,
doesn't that include from the additional optional, doesn't that include the rest of the page?
It doesn't
No.
include the $8, $9, and $10.
The optional language would be included as part of paragraph 7. If you choose to do the optional language, if you choose to omit the optional language, then it would just be the first part of paragraph 7 there, talking about the city being responsible.
The reason I was reading it that way, the optional language is down close to the bottom of the page instead of up there by 7.
Only one space.
That's enough.
In other words, Mr. Wilson, 8, 9, and 10 are still in the agreement.
Okay.
Okay, and you're asking to
Strike
strike the optional language, is that correct, sir?
Well, you got me confused
No,
now.
the optional language is just for paragraph 7.
Okay.
If you strike that, then you still have paragraph 8, 9, and 10, if that's the question.
Then I
Well, 7
backed
would,
up.
7 applies above the optional language. So
Right.
7, paragraph 7
Still applies.
is there. The only difference would be where it says optional language and where it carries over to the second page. That language, I believe, is what you would want removed.
Yeah, if you don't want the society having this cost-shared portion, then we just leave, you would just ask that the optional language be left out. Actually, it needs to be voted in because it's optional, so,
It's out right now.
yeah, it's out right now, and unless you vote it in, it's not in, to be technically correct.
Think on that, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Harder, we'll come back to you. Mr. Harder?
Smoky
Of course, with annual maintenance on that, anytime they come back and to the point where it says to repair the sign, or if something happens, it comes back to us to determine whether we want to repair the sign or not. It comes back to council, correct? At that point, if it's beyond reparation, or we don't wanna mess with it, then what do we do with the sign?
That
Thing
was,
that was done 10 years ago.
yeah, that's something that could be included in there, and I think in one version, we maybe had some language in there that if it cost beyond a certain amount to repair it, council had the option of not repairing it and just taking it down. But that's not in there now.
I think it should be.
I don't think that we should tie the hands of future councils.
There's a
The dollar amount
whereas,
today may not be the same thing as that dollar amount then.
one of the whereases, the last one just says once the society agrees, on completion of sign restoration project installation, possession of the sign will be given to the city, and I would assume with that language, then it would be the city's option to be able to decide whether or not they want to fix it, they want to remove it, or whatever. There is nothing to ask permission of the Historical Society, and nothing, the way I would look at that, nothing that would bind the city to, for anything, at that particular point.
So basically what it's saying is that the Historical Society is giving us the sign with our intent of installing the sign and maintaining it to a degree where we determine it's not feasible. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
This is just a first read.
No, this is resolution.
This is for real.
Just making sure.
I read it. Mr. Wilson, let's get back to you for a
Okay.
second.
So if you leave 7 in, they are not required to have pay for the upkeep.
Correct. If you do not exercise the optional language, they are not required to pay for the upkeep.
Gary, your answer is yes.
If we take
to your
out
question.
everything from here to, we take everything from here to here, that's your optional language.
Now, that
Take
language
that
is
out,
not
and
included
they're not
right now.
required to assist in the maintenance.
In other words, if you wanna make a motion to add it, you can. Otherwise, it's not.
Right
you
now,
don't,
it's
it
not
won't
gonna
be
be
in
in there.
It's not gonna be in there, I'm fine.
Does the smoke clear?
That's enough.
All right,
Just to clarify.
go ahead.
No, not about that. If, whenever this should need maintenance, it's gotta come to the council decide if it gets done, paid for,
Beyond the routine annual,
beyond the routine annual.
like if a hailstorm comes through and beats it up,
Okay.
then I think it would be
So
wise
that'd
for
be
staff to come back to council to
Just
spend
discretionary.
money, yeah.
Okay.
Would it not be insured under the city's insurance if they give it back to us?
Right, but there would be a $5,000 deductible.
So
That
it
doesn't
comes
leave
down to
much.
discretion.
I think, isn't
Okay.
that correct? And we have a $5,000 deductible on our
Yes.
insurance.
Additional comments, questions, or discussion? Everybody understand exactly what we're looking at? This bill has been amended for a one-year basic sign maintenance. That has been decided and amended. Any other comments, questions, or discussion? Mr. Grooms?
Back to the decorative base. Is that in, or does that need to be included if we want it?
It is number 6 in the agreement, just gives the responsibility, pushes the responsibility for
If we
the
want it.
installation to the city. You
So
could
it's
take
not-
that
it's
up at a
not-
later
But it's
time.
not, but there's actually nothing,
Yes.
it says we're responsible for the cost of the installation of decorative base, so the way that reads is if we choose to have a decorative base, we're gonna pay for it, or we have to put one in.
I think I would like to put the word, if the city has the option of installing the decorative base, if council's okay with that amendment.
You wanna make that amendment? And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Derrickson, but you could also, if you wanted to go the route, you can actually choose one right here. If you wanted to go that route as well, conversely.
You can choose one tonight, or you can just put
Put the option.
language in there to choose one in the future.
Say if we want one later, then basically we're, well, I think however we do it, I'd like to amend number 6 to basically reads, so that it reads that we are not responsible for installing one as per this agreement. That's my concern.
So-
Since that, seems to be a point of contention still at the moment.
So we would remove, will be responsible, and then replace it with, shall have the option.
Shall
For
have
the
the
cost
option
of
to
the
install a
in-
decorative base at the city's expense, or at no expense to the society.
You can strike will be responsible for the cost and just replace it with shall have the option. So it would read,
Shall have the option.
the city shall have the option of the installation of the decorative base, of a decorative base.
And shall cover any other miscellaneous expenses.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of amending number 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? That amendment carries as well. Okay. Further questions and discussion? Make sure everybody's on the same page.
Just what's already been spelled out.
So, Mr. Krischke, would you like to finish up this overview, or shall I?
I will, I guess, if you would rather. Well, here's where we stand.
Thank you, that's what I'm looking for.
All right, from the Historical Society, they are going to be responsible for the restoration of the sign. There's nothing to bind them to putting any different technology in, it's just at their discretion, porcelain or metal or whatever technology for the electric. There's been no amendments to that, so that is totally at their discretion and at their cost. They will also install the sign on the 2 poles as depicted in the exhibit, at the location at the northeast corner of Route 60 and Main Street, right there by St. John's Medical Building. That is one of the original locations. Historical Society will split the cost of the MoDOT right-of-way purchase, which would be $600 for them, Historical Society, $600 for the city. The cost to bring the electric from the pole to the sign, either way, if that right now it's written as a donation to Empire. If for some reason that would change, that would be an expense for the Historical Society. The city then is going to be responsible for $600 for the purchase of the property, anywhere between $420 and $600 per year on average for the electrical service, $100 as it is today for the annual maintenance agreement, and the sign, decorative base on the sign would be optional, be taken up at a later date. And amendments.
And the optional language has been excluded.
Right, the optional language has been excluded. Paragraph 6 has been changed, that the city would have the option for the decorative base, and that's it.
Mr. Grooms?
I'm sorry. I know everybody's gonna hate me for this,
Not yet.
but if we were to vote this through tonight, do we not basically force our hands on Exhibit A, on the purchase of the property that doesn't actually see its next reading until the next meeting?
Yes. My answer would be
Doesn't
yes.
it make more sense that we would purchase the property before we obligate ourselves to install the sign on the property?
We've had that discussion up here tonight already.
If you vote this down, then there's no need to purchase the property.
Exactly.
But if we obligate this, if we vote this in, then we've obligated ourselves
No,
to buy the property.
No,
Well, we should
You still say no.
you could still say no on the purchase of the property if you wanted to.
And how do we fulfill the obligation that we've put in, that we've, made for ourselves to, install the sign?
All we've obligated ourselves to do that would bind us would be to purchase the property, and that's still optional, dependent upon approval of the ordinance to purchase the property.
Could the motion to...
We don't have to
Would you
purchase
put-
the property.
Well, you could, Jim's right, you could approve this agreement as amended, subject to council approving the ordinance at the next meeting.
You just
Kind of already in
amended it. Again.
Then I would like to amend this, to be subject to the approval of the, purchase of the property at the next meeting.
Okay. That amendment, second.
Clear everything up?
I just need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Just wait till we get to the complicated stuff.
Yeah. All in favor of amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay, one abstention on that amendment, that's 601. Okay. Back to the original. Everybody understand where we are now? Any questions, comments, discussions further from where we are? Anything at all? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Motion carries 601. Okay, on to the next item. And that bill was amended 3 times, correct? Or 4?
I told we were gonna buy the fire trucks easier.
Yeah.
than the sign issue.
Yeah, we'll get that one.
I think Dwayne's going to get that.
Need a motion to have the first reading of bill number 12-33.
Motion.
Second.
3-3.
I'm sorry, not 33, let me go back. 4-4, yeah, sorry.
It says 3-3.
Same
Yeah.
motion.
Same second.
On the agendas, those bill numbers are actually incorrect. We've got the correct ones on the packets themselves. It's 4-4 and 5-5 for the next two. So, let me start over. Need a motion to have the first reading of bill number 12-44.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately .5 acres owned by Mark Craighead located at 224 and 226 North Main Street from local commercial C1 to general commercial C3.
Thank you, Brenda. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. As the title indicates, this ordinance will rezone approximately 1/2 acre from the local commercial zoning district to the general commercial C3 zoning district. The location is 224 and 226 North Main Street, which is right across the street here in the 200 block. The current use of the 224 property is a gun holster merchant, which is called Crossbreed Holsters. The owner of that business owns both of these properties. The current use of the other property is an abandoned service station. The surrounding land uses include government office, a city hall, public works headquarters, local commercial zoning district, and single-family residential uses to the east, which is the rear of both of these locations. The transportation access to this property is through Main Street, which is a primary arterial thoroughfare in the city. All necessary public services are available to this location for commercial use. Like I mentioned earlier, the C3 zoning district is probably unfamiliar to most of you. There are no properties in the city that are currently located in this particular zoning district. It is relatively very new compared to our other zoning districts. It was adopted in 2006, and it does allow for slightly more intense uses than you would find in the other two general commercial districts, though the types of permitted uses are very similar, and you'll find a lot of overlap in there. The future land use plan designates this area as being appropriate for the Main Street zoning district, also another newer zoning district that does not exist anywhere in the city. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to the council to recommend approval of this bill.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson? Anything at all? Seeing none, this is a first read. If you have questions, comments, discussion, please ask at the next meeting. If you need clarification on part of this particular bill, please contact Mr. Tyson or Ms. Noggle in the Planning and Economic Development Department. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. You need a motion of the first reading of bill number 12-45.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the final development plan for the Eclipse Event Center Plan Development District PD 1201, located near the interchange of James River Freeway and State Highway MM, and also along South Farm Road 97 and East Sawyer Road.
Thank you, Brenda. Welcome back, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
We'll be taking yet another step with the Eclipse Event Center Plan Development District with this particular bill, which will approve their final development plan. You'll remember that council approved the preliminary development plan and rezone of this approximately 1,000 acres on April 9th of this year. After that preliminary development plan approval, the next step for the applicant is to complete this final development plan to compare it to our conventional development process. The preliminary development plan sets what I would consider to be the zoning regulations for this particular property. Then this final development plan is very similar to what you would see on a preliminary plat. The zoning is set, and now the determination to be made is whether the proposed development is in substantial conformity to the regulations that were adopted by council back on April 9th. The Plan Development District Ordinance prescribes a list of certain factors that would kick the development out of substantial conformity. And I've listed each of those in my staff exhibit. In staff's review, we did not find that any of those items would make this particular development beyond substantial conformity. So to say that another way, we believe it is in substantial conformity.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson?
This gets a little bit more specific every time, so where they'll go from here is with the preliminary, it was very general. Now they're getting slightly more specific. Now they'll move on to the construction phase and submit plans to the city that will be specific down to the inch in some cases. So that'll be the next thing that happens is the permitting phase.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? This is a first read. If you have questions, comments, discussion between now and the next meeting, or need clarification, please contact Mr. Tyson or wait to ask those questions in the next council meeting. Thank you very much, sir. On to the next item on the agenda. Under other business, resolutions and discussion. Resolution number 12-R-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding a bid for the purchase of water and sewer materials for the Park Lane Stormwater Improvement Project. Need a motion?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Give us the overview, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. You may have noticed in the paper last week, we bought about a half-page advertisement space. We're gone out to bid on our stormwater project. We do anticipate that coming to the council, possibly the second meeting in July. We are still in our preparatory phase in the field, and that includes utility relocations. We have conflicts with water and sewer service lines, and we have a water main that needs to be relocated. We had originally solicited just bids for our materials. The water materials, we had hoped that would come in under $10,000. It did not. We chucked those, started again with the sealed bid. We threw in all of the remaining sewer materials that we needed for those sewer relocations and solicited sealed bids. Very good response. We had four firms. It's nice to see, even with the economic downturn, we have these many vendors still operating in the Springfield area. Very good bids. When we did our bid analysis, the first apparent low bidder was HD Supply Waterworks. However, when we looked at some of their individual unit bids, you can see consistently our other vendors were between $25 and $30 a piece for a particular fitting, and HD Supply was $5.25. When I called the sales rep that had submitted a bid, they verified that they did not bid on the part that we asked for. This is a rigid coupling, and they bid on a flexible coupling, much cheaper to provide. However, we do feel that that's a non-conforming bid. If you were to do the math there, you'd see if they had bid in line with what the other firms had done, it would have been close. However, with the sealed bid process, we really don't have much of a choice. You either accept the bid or reject each bid. So staff's recommendation is to declare the HD Supply Waterworks as a non-conforming bid, move on to the next low bidder, which is Springfield Windwater. Their total bid, all the unit prices added together, $16,668.30.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
Is this pretty much in line with what you expected?
It is. A little better pricing on the sewer than we had expected. Prices did not change a whole lot from our original unsealed bid to the second bid. We did have one additional bidder at the second go around.
Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Brock. On the next item on the agenda, resolution number 12-R-30. A resolution of the Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, accepting a sales proposal from Potter Equipment to trade out 2 backhoes. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Brock, give us an overview, sir.
We have very consistently traded in our 2 backhoes on an annual basis. It's very much like trading in a vehicle. We're trying to keep that value up before it starts to drop. I do wanna just brief the council quickly that up until this year, this had been an in-house, staff and administration approved. When we were looking at, some of our purchasing procedures, this was one that was identified as something that should have been coming to council for a number of years, so, you will see this on an annual basis, I believe. And some specifics here, it does, in the past, it has varied substantially on the offer we get for the trade-in value, the cost for a new vehicle. Or for a new backhoe, it is very similar to going to a car lot and shopping for the best deal. In this case, the case Super N, there is one regional dealer. We have, over the years, accepted a number of offers. There have been years when they weren't quite as good, when the secondary market just wasn't there. There weren't contractors out there ready to purchase our equipment. This year, we have two 2011 units. They proposed very good trade-in value, original purchase price, one case 74 is $400, just the trade-in value, just $400 off of that. The other one has slightly different, riggings on it. It was purchased in 2011, $75,120. That has a larger number of hours on it, and the trade-in value is a little bit less there, $73,600. So, the proposal then would be to trade those two in for similar units, but 2012 models at a total price of $11,200. We did look at a number of different ways to calculate depreciation, fixed depreciation, declining, double declining, and in all cases, that calculated depreciation was more than what our trade-in value is here. So we think this is a very good deal, and a way to keep our two pieces of equipment in a good state.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Anything at all? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brock. Resolution number 12-R-31, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the re-roof of the Republic Senior Friendship Center and authorizing the execution of a contract between the City of Republic and the selected contractor for said services. Would like to have a motion on that.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Keeley.
Thanks, sir.
Give us the overview, sir.
Do want to take a little time to explain this to the City Council. This is a little bit complicated. We did go out for formal bid via IFB for the re-roof of the Senior Friendship Center. Our base bid was doing just through the back half. We have some defective shingles back there. We were able to get a 40 square credit. That credit amounts to about $2,000 or $3,000. So that was originally what we were trying to do going into the project, just through the back half, aware of some issues back there and get that done. We did decide just to go ahead and list as an alternate what they would charge for a complete re-roof, just to see at the time what kind of prices we could get. We did receive 3 bids back for the project. However, after following up with all 3 bidders, it has come to light that the low 2 bidders did not bid the job prevailing wage like it was specified in the IFB. Both of them apologized. Both of them stated they would like to withdraw their bid. So that leaves us with the 1 bid from Dale's Roofing. I talked to the gentleman. I do believe it's a fair price. Really, at this point, I believe we have really one of 2 options. We could just accept the bid from Dale's Roofing. We certainly do not have the money to do the complete re-roof. We accept the bid from Dale's Roofing for $14,000. We budgeted $12,500 for the project. We do have some funds available. We're going to delay purchase of some tip and roll bleachers over at the community center, so we could use those funds available for this. We could accept from Dale's, go with it, or we could go out to again for a rebid. It'd be my recommendation, however, after talking with Dale, after talking with Wayne, and Wayne's our parking facility maintenance superintendent, he's comfortable with Dale, and I would recommend that we go ahead and proceed with Dale's Roofing.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Keeley?
That's just, I'm sorry, proceed with Dale's Roofing for just the south portion of the building only.
Thanks for that clarification, sir. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Keeley?
But you were taking the shingles off and going all the way down?
Correct, all the way down.
What about the north part where the shingles are not very well?
We'll have to
Very good.
probably do a temporary repair. You talking about the front half of the building?
Yes,
We'll have to do some temporary repairs. We have done those in the past, and
I know you have.
yeah, and they have actually, we had one company do that for free for us. We could contact them again. We'll probably have to do some temporary repairs so we can afford to do the front half of the building.
When you threw in the complete re-roof, what kind of a dollar figure did you think that you could afford?
Well, Shane,
Loaded
honestly,
question.
no, it's a good question, because honestly, if Cox Roofing was a true bid for that 22, we could have probably made that work. I mean, we would have had some access possibly to some additional funds to make that work. It was bearable, but when you start talking about 35, that becomes a little bit unbearable. I would rather have got it all done, but complication in the bid procedures didn't lend itself to that, so.
Additional questions, comments, discussion?
I know for a long time the north parts had problems and they had to redo and do some things, and so I understand not being able to do it all at one time, but I do know the north half needs some work also.
Sure. I'm hopeful, I mean, I say that hopeful, I mean, we might be able to do that in 13, but we have some other things on our plate too, so.
Mr. Casper and then Mr. Harder.
Do I remember correctly that last council meeting or council meeting before last, we rent this to the Center for Aging for like $150
Yeah,
a month?
it's, I think the amount's $175, if I'm doing that from memory, but I believe that's about right.
That is the paper.
Yeah, it's an expensive favor.
I know. I agree.
Anything else, Mr. Casper?
No.
And Mr. Harder?
What was, again, the discrepancy in the bid process, what was that again?
We are, in our IFB, we clearly stated that this job has to be bid prevailing wage. For some reason, and I can't tell you the reason, both of the low bidders did not bid at prevailing wage. I phoned both of them. They wanted to go ahead and give me a revised bid with the prevailing wage, saying it would raise it substantially, but I declined because they're not technically allowed to do that.
Mr. Brashears?
You're on the 40 square credit from Tamco warranty.
Sure.
You said 2 or 3,000.
Yeah, it expires July the 19th.
Okay, does that include in the 14,000 for the roofing?
That's correct, yeah. As you can see, the north half and the south half are about the same price, about the same size. So if you did these comparisons and did all the math, it's equals about $2,000 or $3,000 that square credit does. So.
If you were to put it out for bids again, would A1 and Cox be allowed to bid it now?
To my understanding, they certainly would be. Yeah.
I mean, would they be allowed to, with,
If we rejected all bids and went back out, then they would be
allowed
eligible
to?
just like anyone else to
Well, I thought so, but I wanted to make sure.
Would you lose your credit then?
We could put in for an extension, but I can't guarantee it. But however, I don't know if we could get it done by July the 9th, is that the next council meeting? That's pressing for run bids and advertisements and get bids in. I don't know, it's a pretty tight window. But I'm not gonna say it couldn't be done, but we could always appeal for an extension to Tamco too, so.
Mr. Wilson?
If they did, if all the companies did prevailing wage, they'd be in the $30,000 range, so would they not?
For a complete re-roof?
Yes.
Well, certainly, for a complete, yeah. I would guess. Both of them, all they stated to me was our bid would be raised substantially. That's all they told me, so.
just to make certain, it's very clear, and Ron probably can point to this better, it's very clear that this is a prevailing wage job. You do have, as a city, the option on some of the maintenance type of jobs, you can make some smaller repairs that could fall underneath that, but in this particular case, there is no option. It's a big difference, but, it's clear.
I just, maybe you can explain it to me, or actually maybe you can, Jared. I mean, it just seems like I said, this pool, an awfully expensive favor we're doing for $175, trying to offset this very large capital improvement.
Sure. I can kind of speak to that,
I get that.
Right. I could certainly speak to that.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
part of that, I'll be honest with you, for that amount, I'm not even sure why we charge them anything.
Yeah.
But if we had to staff that ourselves, run all that ourselves, I mean, you're talking about a tremendous expense there. So that is technically, I mean, I wouldn't, the paid staff over there, the amount they spend for meals and everything, we've never put a calculator to it. I could probably get those numbers. But we would be out that, so in essence, we're getting all of that for free. And in turn,
All of what for free, the staffing?
that's right, we don't pay for any of it. SMOA staffs the complete facility, provides the food there completely. We don't do any of that, so.
Even on the equipment.
And even like the parking lot addition 2 years ago, they completely paid for that, which was great. Like $24,000 they paid for it, so. But I do understand your point. I mean, it almost looks as though, you know, we're not getting anything out of it, but if we had to all pay for all that staff, that would be a tremendous expense.
Right. No, I mean, the city definitely gets something out of the senior center being there, absolutely. I mean, it's a community good and a community positive. I just, maybe you guys can help me, because maybe this is my being new to it. That just, if it were a business, they also would staff it. They would also have their money coming through if we were renting that building to them. And we would need to offset, at the very least, our costs. And, that's a pretty big one. I mean, we just debated a $2,000 brick park for a sign for 45 minutes. Sure. Very expensive for that.
And you also didn't debate $11,000 expenditure on two $75,000 backhoes.
There we go.
Let's just cut to the chase.
Yes.
To your point though, Mr. Casgrain, it's, to Mr. Jerry, what Jared said, it's a quid pro quo basically. They staff it, they run it, they maintain it, we don't have any of that expenditure. To keep the senior center here, if something happened where we had to staff it, do all that stuff, it wouldn't be financially almost feasible to do. We've had this discussion, I think every year we've done something at the community center, or the senior center, because it is a building that, when we had the bathrooms, we had to redo the bathrooms. I mean, the same discussion happened then as well. So, as an asset to the community, Jerry's Parks, create a lot of, revenue for him. It's all expended, but this is one facility that we also have to expend on as we have it set up, to help the seniors and help that. Granted, if you charge $1,000 a month, would it generate any more money? Or would it cause them more, would they have to cut back on somebody? I do not know. That's not a question that we've asked. We use it as community good. That's kind of to your point, too. Mr. Wilson, go ahead. I think you're.
Don't you also rent that out to private individuals for
We do.
birthday parties and
we
what have you?
Just speaking roughly, we bring in about $5,000 a year from private rentals. Each and every year, tried and true, we have to bring in a transfer to the senior center of anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 to pay all the bills, as far as utilities, insurance on the building. But those are our only two expenses are utilities and insurance. So 20 to 25, somewhere in there. But we do get additional revenue from private rentals, and we get the $2,100, I believe, from SMOA.
Your point's well taken.
Yeah.
It's not the first time it's been made.
I got nothing else to add.
The discussion will come up again next year too, I guarantee it, always does. It's good discussion though. Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Kewett?
I think it would be silly to go back out for bids and risk losing the credit.
And clarify after the credit one more time.
We have, and Wayne probably speaks to this far better than I are, but something about the shingles over there, some of them weren't granulated properly. Wayne worked really hard and kept after them for about 6 to 8 months, and finally they gave in. And so they gave us a 40 square credit, but it does expire on July the 19th, so.
And that's worth
$2 to $3K.
That's what I was wondering. I think that's what Charlie asked too. We want to make sure that's out on the table, we understand exactly what we're talking about. Thank you. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Okay. No? You say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Okay, just to be clear, since the other two within the, had withdrawn their bids, we were down to Dale's Roofing for the south portion of the building, only at $14,000.
And his recommendation is in there as it states for that particular piece. Okay. Did you get the count on that? Okay, fair enough. Well, the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Resolution number 12-R-32, the resolution of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for fire apparatus and execution of contract. Need a motion? Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Welcome, Chief Compton, and your pictures.
I thought we could do better than, black and white in the back of the packet, no offense.
Need to do something.
Give us an overview, sir.
Another public sign on that? Put whatever you want on there, buddy. We're pretty, adaptable. Our fleet of fire equipment, basically the newest piece of equipment we have is a 95 Freightliner. It ranges anywhere from 1984 to the 95. It's all old. We keep good maintenance on it, good repairs. But it's aging, and as the city's growing and our call load continues to increase, it's come time to buy some new trucks. Our call load so far this year is up about 10% over last year. About a year ago, we started in a venture with the City of Springfield, the Nixa Fire Protection District, to develop bid specifications to go into a cooperative purchase to buy some new engines. Springfield bought 2 new engines, the Nixa Fire Protection District bought 1, and by going this route, we basically all have the same truck, same engine, same pump. We have different options for each town as what it takes to make that truck work in that particular setting. By going that particular route, we saved anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 a truck through the cooperative purchase. We had 12 vendors that bid on this, which is a little bit unheard of because usually you only get 2 to 3, but because of the large number of trucks being purchased, we had a large number of people that could come out to bid on it. The low bidder was Precision Fire Apparatus. Their bid was rejected by the City of Springfield. They had 23 exceptions to the bid document. They also have a track history with the City of Springfield, and it wasn't favorable to bid that with the exceptions. The next lowest bidder was Crimson Fire Apparatus. They had 10 exceptions, and they had a clause in there that even though the bid specifications were very clear, they weren't too sure they could build the truck to the bid specifications, but they would build it to meet what they thought the industry standard would be okay with. The next bidder was a Rosenbauer truck distributed by Max Fire Solutions. They had 1 exception, and that exception applied to the City of Springfield. They needed to make the truck 1 inch longer due to some equipment Springfield was putting on it, so that didn't apply to us. The truck will be mounted on a Spartan chassis. We currently have several of those trucks that are on Spartan chassis. Spartan's been in business 37 years. They make everything from fire trucks to trash trucks to over-the-road coaches to Fleetwood RVs. They have a very good track record, and they're very good at getting us parts when we need them. The options on the truck, we have trimmed this down to, it is a plain Jane fire truck. And I know you look at that price and you go, how can it be plain Jane? Well, it is. In this particular picture out in the front of the podium, this truck has aluminum wheels on it. We trimmed those off. That was an option within the bid specs, and we trimmed that off. It was about a $1,400 upcharge. We don't need those. We'll go with a steel wheel with a stainless insert. Like I said, we cut out a few other things. There were some airbags in there that we cut out. There's really not much left to cut. I mean, we've got it trimmed down to nothing, other than the options we need to make it functional in the city. Truck comes with a 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, 5 years on the engine, 5 years on the transmission, lifetime on the frame, 5 years on the pump, lifetime warranty on the tank. The body and the cabs are 10-year structural components, 10 years on any kind of corrosion or rust that may occur, and a 10-year warranty on the paint. The truck will come with some equipment, but not a whole lot. We'll mainly take the equipment off our other trucks that we're taking out of service and move over onto this truck. We'll have to buy a couple of valves, but nothing major expenses that we can think of right offhand. And within the document in front of you is a $12,000 contingency cost. I don't foresee using that. The City of Springfield and the Nixa Fire Protection District have already been through the process of going to the factory to get their trucks lined out. Honestly, it kind of pays to be last on this deal because they got all the kinks worked out for us. So that's kind of a good thing. Projected delivery date is June of 2013. And if you have any questions as to how we're going to finance this, there is a document attached to the exhibit from our finance director. And I didn't get here early enough because we were on a call, and she would be happy to bail me out, I'm hoping. We will sell the 78 Pierce, which if your house catches on fire tonight in the City Republic, that's the first due truck because we broke a truck at the call we was to come from. And we will sell the 95 Freightliner. So, Pierce won't generate a whole lot of revenue due to the age. The Freightliner will generate anywhere from $35,000 to $40,000, depending who we sell it to.
Anything else?
All I have.
Mr. Christian, you wanna add something?
Yeah, well, before we get to the
Short overview.
financing, that, bottom line is, can we afford it? The need, I don't think there's any question as to the need for fire trucks. Certainly, Dwayne's been operating with aged vehicles for quite some time, and they've been doing a good job. So that portion of it is great, but the financing is where this all lies. We did look at the two options, one option being purchase one vehicle, and the second option obviously would be to purchase two. Under the first scenario, one truck, we were able to negotiate an extension to the pricing for the vehicles for 6 months. And the thought process there was to get us through a little bit longer into the year, make sure everything was flowing smoothly revenue-wise, and give an opportunity to see if any new development came into the city. Looking at it, considering the maintenance that we go through each and every year on these vehicles, came to the conclusion that scenario 2 is what we recommended, which was a purchase of 2 vehicles. And I'll be like Dwayne and turn over to Laura if you guys want some specifics on the financing portion of it.
That delay of 6 months also will give the company a chance to charge us a 4% upcharge. They may not do it, but it's within the contract, they have the right to do that. So it's 4% on one truck is what it would be. Yeah.
And one last thing, I mean, I know this is a large capital expenditure, and one of the things that has been brought up by mayor and council is to come up with a capital improvement plan or budget for some of our bigger needs. This certainly would fit into that. We'll have something to present to council by when we go through budget for 2013. The big thing with capital improvements is identifying your revenue sources, where we're gonna be able to obtain the money to afford this, and that's what this memo does, is tell you where we lose some debt, and we've got a restructuring of some of the debt that's already occurred that's lessened our impact each year. So it's outlined, but Laura can go through that if you need to.
Questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Grooms?
One point on the 2 truck scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, from what I recall, the trucks would actually be delivered 12 months apart, and therefore would actually, the beginning of the hit.
No, they should be delivered, we're asking for them to be delivered at the same time, June 2013.
Okay. That's different.
They should go down the assembly line, one right after the other.
They would have been 6 months apart, of course, if we
Yeah,
delayed it by.
I've been a
So
staggered 6
I was
months.
thinking they were a budget year apart, I should
Yeah.
say. But now we're saying they're not.
What do
Well,
we
they'll be
have?
delivered, both trucks, June 2013.
If we had delayed, bought one and then extended our option to the end of the year, basically, then it would have
We
been
got
very
it.
possible. We would have been one in 2013,
1 and 14.
and then one in the early part of 2014.
We're just moving, either way you look at it, you're moving one back or one forward 6 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have one last question on the breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that you changed a pump.
Yes, we took a credit on a pump.
Is, was it a 2,000 gallon per minute pump is what you took?
Yeah, let me explain what we did.
I mean, how does that compare to what you're working with now? I guess is my
We
question.
run, the current pumps we're running now are either 1,500 gallon a minute or 2,000 gallon a minute. And as we continue to build bigger buildings, we'll need bigger pumps. And 2,000 is basically the maximum size that you're gonna get on a truck with this horsepower rating. You can get bigger pumps, but we changed the whole makeup of the truck and it jumped it up by
I was
big
saying,
money.
given that that was a credit, I assumed that that they started with a larger pump and you asked it.
Well, actually what they did, Springfield Fire Department went with what they call a compressed air foam system, where they're injecting, a water wetting agent into the water as it goes through the truck. And they had a pedestal pump. And the pump that they had to have all of the plumbing going to the outlets, specially welded. I mean, it's crafted, hand-crafted, hours of labor. The pump that we're using is extremely similar to the pump we have in our ladder truck. It's already made up, it just drops in the frame, bolts up, and the outlets are pre-plumbed. Because we didn't go with the compressed air foam system, which was about another $30,000 option, be nice to have, but I can't justify it. Lynn couldn't, nobody could justify it with the volume of fires we're having.
Okay.
That answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we
Actually,
got what we needed on that.
maintenance-wise, we're coming out ahead with this pump than what they are.
Fair. Ms. Poole, go ahead.
Is there anything in this year's budget for fire truck?
We'd set back, $37,400 and some dollars when we paid off out of the cigarette tax. It's dedicated for this. When we paid off the debt last year to go towards the down payment.
So basically, we need to look forward to 13 to put more into it, right?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
You want
nothing, man.
You want to try?
$2,000 on a sign he can make a decision on.
if
For
the-
this one, he's gotta trust you.
If the sign catches on fire, will this truck put it out?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. We'll stop for ice cream while we're down there.
Where do we make money on these things?
Any pertinent questions, comments, discussion on said fire trucks? Laurel? Anything at all?
Maybe
Mr.
to
Grooms, go ahead.
rephrase or to clarify Ms. Poole's question, out of the 2012 budget, how much are we talking?
We had set back
I mean, how much are we gonna have to write a check for before the end of the year?
nothing.
Okay.
You're rolling that into 13 that
Yeah,
you're taking.
that
Gotcha.
37,400 was rolled
Clarify
into
in
the
my
next
mind.
year's budget.
Thank you.
We owe nothing in advance. There is no, the way Springfield structured the, bid documents, we pay when we receive the truck.
Okay.
We had looked at an option of prepayment for the chassis, and we would have had to buy a bid bond, and we would not have saved any money time we bought the bond. So we just abandoned that idea.
And not to confuse the cigarette tax money, because that's a general fund revenue, and although it's dedicated for fire, and not to confuse anything else, to put it simply, we'll have about a little better than $200,000 in reserves, after the end of this year, and that would be including all of the leftover money that Dwayne's talking about. Of that reserve money that's been targeted for this, that will be the money that we will use up front to lessen our annual debt payment. So we will be using and, for the most part, depleting our reserve accounts to go towards these trucks. And that'll reduce the payments. And then, we've got a loan, been repriced, and you can see in the memo, that'll save us an annual amount of money that will cover the expenses for 2013. But then for the remaining years, there will be some annual expenses that we will have to absorb in the general fund budget. Over the life of the 10 years, which is what's recommended, you can pretty much figure on about $95,000 to $100,000. We listed at $96,836 as it currently stands. That's the amount over the life of a loan that we'll have to absorb within the general fund. But we're fairly confident that we can pick up that difference.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments, discussion? Grooms.
Please explain the 96, I'm not seeing it.
Okay, that probably, in year 2013, the annual savings from the repricing of one of the loans will save us enough to cover the debt payment for that year, which would be a partial year. In 2014, that amount will only cover 44% of the lease payments, so there'll be an amount that we will have to, pay out of the general fund to make up that difference.
So
Over the life of the
we've got-
loan,
I'm
through,
sorry, Jim, not to interrupt you, just
Sorry.
to make sure I understand. So in 14 and 15, we need to make up roughly 56% of 28,000. Is that what am I
you'll need to
following?
make up 56% of 64,000. The annual debt
Okay.
payment for 10 years would be 64,276.
Okay,
You know, we have an immediate savings of $28,308. That's from
That covers your
the other
partial.
savings. And then we also, in year 2016, or 2017, I believe, will have, lost another debt payment that will also cover part of this shortfall. So in total, over that 10-year period, it's not all 1 year, it's in total, it'll be varying amounts each year, would be at approximately $96,000.
so the years we have to dig deeper, 14 and 15.
Yes, 14 and 15 will have a shortfall. Will actually, because of how things work out in 2016, because of how the debts are
Because you got
structured,
different
we'll actually have a surplus. And then years 2017 through the end of the debt is 2023. We're anticipating about a $6,651 shortfall. So
Okay.
that's, and in total, it would be $96,000.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was seeing the
Sorry.
6,000 and I couldn't make that turn into 96.
Well, I'm getting a nod from the finance director, I'm okay.
I'm good now, thank you.
You good? Okay. Additional questions, comments, discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. You can take your poster.
I'll do that.
Put it back in your wall.
On behalf of my staff and I, thank you. We'll finally have fire trucks that have an air conditioner in them.
Wait a minute,
Wait a second.
It's over. That is not an option.
On to the next item, resolution number 12-R-33, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri approving a preliminary plat of the Savannah Heights Phase 3 subdivision located near the 500 block of South Kansas Avenue. Would like to have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Give us the overview, sir.
The preliminary plat for this particular development, the Savannah Heights subdivision, was originally approved in 2003 and was approved with 4 phases of construction. The first 2 phases were completed in the immediately following years, but subsequent delays in development since that time resulted in the preliminary plat approval expiring. And so now the developer, who is Morlock Ross, has submitted a new preliminary plat for the 3rd phase of that development. Staff has reviewed this plat, and it does include all the necessary and required public improvements to properly serve the development.
Planning and zoning, sir.
Planning and zoning voted 4-0 to recommend approval of this item. The surveyor who prepared this preliminary plat, Larry Jansen, is also here if you have any questions for
Fair
him.
enough. Thank you very much. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson?
These 27 lots aren't shown on the map that you got.
What was that, Mr. Griggs? I can't remember.
So the 27 lots aren't on this map.
Yeah, the map I provided did not discriminate between phases 3 and 4. Be the southeast portion of that 40 acres.
where is this Kelly north of O'Neill? Your street, how far north of O'Neill would that be? Almost just like a little jog in there. No, that's the lowest there. So they have to
You got
be
about
over here
100
somewhere.
feet to
Okay,
100 plus.
it's about a lot.
And do you have an idea how far is O'Neill from Kelly Street?
112.50 plus 25.
So, not much.
Center line is probably about 160 feet.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Rushiers? Okay. Questions, comments, discussion?
Glad to see something starting back up.
Very nice. Yes. Anything else? Good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. No executive session tonight, so I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries